Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. During the time of Jesus, there was no formal classroom. So, in order to learn, one has to choose a master. So, choosing a master and becoming a disciple of somebody, a preacher, was a very crucial decision. That time, there were so many preachers. Baka akala po natin si Jesus lang ang preacher that time. No. There were so many preachers and teachers during the time of Jesus. Those who would like to learn have to find a teacher whose character and doctrine they like, and they see this person as truly trustworthy. Then they would devote themselves to the teachers, not just teachers' lessons, but devote themselves to the teacher's way of life. So, choosing to become Jesus' disciples had his own demands. May mga demand. Other teachers would have their own, but for Jesus, he had his own demands from people who wanted to follow his way of life. In our gospel, there are two things, although in some other gospels, there are also some other demands. But particularly in the gospel we heard, there are two, or three, I mean. One is, if anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, cannot be my disciple. What does it mean, hating? Well, hating my brothers and sisters is not actually having that grudges inside the heart. It is just the superlative way of saying that if we are to follow Jesus, then he should be second to nobody in our life. Second to nobody, to no one. We cannot even put our family relationship above our relationship with Jesus. It should be Jesus first above all relationships. So this is the first demand. Siguro ang ganda nun kung titingnan natin ngayon sa ating konkretong buhay. Ano po? Of course, we are all disciples because we have been baptized and we are Christians. We bear the name Christ, Christians. And if we are to rank people, important people in our lives, pang-ilan kaya si Kristo? And if He is second to someone or somebody, then the answer of Jesus says, cannot be my disciple. The second is, whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Ano bang cross pinag-uusapan po natin? Hindi po ito yung cross na kasi wala kang pera, wala kang panggastos, may problema ka, financially. This is not the kind of cross. The cross, Jesus is saying, is still related to your being a disciple. Still a demand to discipleship. What are these hardships that we have got to go through in order to really be a disciple? That cross, of course, detachment. One of these is detachment. In our concrete way of life now, kung hindi si Lord pang first, then it should be a cross. How could we make Christ really the most important person in our lives. That's the cross. And most of all, to be faithful to Him should be a cross. But so we seldom have this idea that fidelity to Christ, trying to be faithful to Christ, should be a struggle, should be a cross. No, we do not look at it that way. But that's the truth. To make ourselves really worthy of being called a disciple in name and in truth, then we have to struggle much. That's why we've been forgetting our likes, our whims and wishes, the things, the habits, the vices that we have, the attachments that we have, the illicit relationships that we have. These are crosses that we've got to bear just to be nearer to Jesus. Relinquish the unnecessary things. And the last demand of Jesus is found at the last portion of the gospel. It's about material things. Whoever chooses material things over Jesus cannot be His disciple. Tatatlo pa nga lang yun, ano po? Sa tatlo kaya, ilan kaya doon, alin kaya doon ang sabihin natin, we have already successfully followed that demand of Christ. Naalala ko po nung kami mga seminarians pa, most of the time, oral exams po kami. Until now, you have 3 questions. May fishbowl dyan, ang daming questions. You've got to pick one and read it before your professor and explain. For every question, you have 33.3.3 points. Pag bumagsak ka ng isa, meron ka lang 66.6.6 points. Kung ganyanin kaya ni Lord ngayon, sa tatlong demands niya, meron tayong 33.3.3 points. Alin kaya doon ang pasado na tayo? My brothers and sisters, that's what St. Paul is saying in our in our first reading. What he is saying is, he's saying, do everything without grumbling or arguing or questioning, that you may be blameless and innocent children of God. Grumbling and arguing. He is saying, do not rationalize. Ganun kalita tayo, mahilig tayo ng rationalization, defending ourselves, na kasi ganito kasi ganyan. But St. Paul is saying, do not stop grumbling or arguing, so that you may be blameless. Because when we speak of defending ourselves, it means we are not at all ready to abandon, to relinquish, to throw away the things that hinder us from being the truly disciples of Jesus. At the end, St. Paul is saying that indeed it is a grace to be called disciple of Christ. Yes, a grace freely given. But to be truly a disciple, invited as a disciple, but to live as a disciple is our job now. That's what St. Paul is saying. It's our job. And so, we've got to place Jesus over and beyond even the closest people in our lives and the most precious things that we have in our life. It is only then that we can say, Lord, I am a disciple of yours because I am living your way of life. For us who are still struggling then let us renew our discipleship. When we receive Jesus in the Holy Communion, it's Christ again giving himself to us. Then as we receive the Holy Communion, let us also give ourselves to him and say, Lord, as you give yourself to me, let me also have that courage and strength to give myself totally to you, so that I may be your disciple in name and in reality.